Thank you for coming to really open for us and really set the tone with your address about what is really important. Where are we now? And also, where do we need to go? And I think it's even more important that you highlighted that the last year also showed us that nature can really fight back. You know, there is a way to navigate this, there is a way to get to the other side. And that is really what today is all about. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to actually be hearing some really inspiring and really insightful perspectives from different individuals. And I just want to highlight the three segments that you would expect to follow on before I introduce the next speaker. So the first, we're going to have a conversation and really hear on the impact of COVID-19, particularly on the African context, and really thinking about, you know, what does it mean for our recovery? You know, what are the plans? What are we looking at? We're also going to have an opportunity to also then look at the recovery strategy in South Africa. You know, what are really some of the opportunities? What are some of the best practices that, you know, the country is putting forward that we can all learn from and benefit from? And then we'll also have an opportunity to get an industry perspective and really learn more about some of the protocols in the industry that have really come into effect during the COVID-19 pandemic in the context of South Africa. I really encourage you that as those three conversations are happening, please use the chat function to submit any questions that you have, because what is going to happen is that when our three speakers are finished, they will also then have an opportunity to actually present to you and answer any questions that you have, because it's important for all of us gathered here, coming from all different parts of the world, sitting in different continents. Let's leave ensuring that we have an opportunity to learn from each other. And in the morning, the opportunity is to really hear from the South African perspective and the Africa perspective more broadly. And we're looking forward to, after we have had the break, that we can really start hearing also from the other parts of the world in terms of what has been top of mind. And then if you then think about where we are now, right, and what we are trying to achieve, what's important is then bringing that Africa context, as I mentioned, and I'm now going to introduce and position for our next speaker. So, and they'll be focusing on the African context and really looking at the perspective on tourism recovery. And if you look at data, right, from the World Travel and Tourism Council, if you look at 2018 alone, you know, tourism contributed over 425 billion. It's 425 billion rands to the South African economy. And it also generated, you know, direct foreign spend of 82.5 billion rands. I mean, and if you look at that in context, I mean, that's more than 700,000 people. 1 in every 22 South Africans is actually employed by this sector. You know, this was the context we're going for. And then if you look at the impact of COVID-19, I mean, it led to a massive loss in revenue, in jobs, and significant job losses, particularly in our economy, where already unemployment was one of the biggest challenges. And then if you're looking at South Africa, you know, which ended up going as deep as level 5 in lockdown in early 2020, you know, the Department of Tourism worked really tirelessly, and they really worked on mitigating some of the negative impacts that really the lockdown could have on businesses. They set aside as much as 200 million rands in terms of once-off grants, just helping small and medium-sized businesses such as your bed and breakfast, you know, your restaurants, your lodges, your coach operations. Moreover, the department went as far as actually compiling a tourism recovery plan, which we have the privilege of actually hearing about today. So those are some of the highlights in terms of context about where we are. And I'm really keen to have our next speaker, you know, who's the UNWTO's Regional Director for Africa. You know, she'll be telling us more about the impact of COVID-19, looking at it from an African perspective. And also, what are some of the recoveries strategies? What are some of the things that we're thinking about? And these individuals, they joined the World Trade Organization, a United Nations specialized agency for tourism in 2013 after a career in tourism in the Seychelles. Really a global individual. This is someone who's among one of the most influential women advocating for Africa's tourism at a global stage. And so we do sit really in high company. She began her tourism career back in the day studying hotel management in Singapore at the Singapore Hotel Association and Education Center. Thereafter, she occupied various positions in operations, reservations, and sales, mainly in hotels, including leading international brands such as the Le Méridien and also Hilton World Wilds Resorts. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's give the honorable welcome to Miss Elcia Grandcourt. Welcome to you, ma'am, and look forward to learning from you.
Thank you so much, Program Director Ms. Zippo. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this lovely introduction this morning. Your Excellency, Deputy Minister, Mr. Fish Malalela, Chief Director, Ms. Nurunesa Mula, who is also a dear friend, all colleagues from the South Africa Tourism Department, I bring, and as well as all participants connecting in today, I bring you greetings from our Secretary General. And also I would like to thank South Africa Tourism Ministry for inviting us, UNWTO, to share and contribute to this event today. So my presentation, as has been mentioned, will focus on the initiatives that has been launched by UNWTO in the context of COVID-19, and also how this is helping countries in the continent and beyond to restart the tourism sector. So if you allow me to share my screen here, if I get a heads up on whether you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Program director?
Yes, yes, we can see it. Just that you must make it bigger.
It's okay like that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's fine.
So, oops. I'm sorry, just getting used to moving. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so as I was saying, as you all know, the tourism and travel sector has been grounded to a halt, and the global economy has been severely affected by the effects of COVID-19, which, as we know today, is a global health pandemic. And this unprecedented situation has also disrupted the total tourism value chain, including the demand and supply side of the tourism sector. The impact of the pandemic has been rather severe, and it has not only brought our sector as well as the travel sector to a halt, but as we know it today, millions of livelihoods are at risk, especially those that are in the most vulnerable groups. And if we look at, I have very sensitive, if we look at the figures, as was mentioned earlier this morning, the global tourism suffered its worst year on record last year in 2020, with international arrivals dropping by minus 74% according to our latest data. And destinations worldwide have seen fewer international arrivals in 2020 than in the previous year due to reduction in demand, as well as we know the widespread travel restrictions. And this compares with a 4% decline recorded during the 2009 global economic crisis. And according to our data, the collapse in international travel represents an estimated loss of 1.3 trillion in export revenues. And this is more than 11 times the loss that has been recorded during the 2009 global economic crisis. And as I mentioned, this crisis has put between 100 to 120 million direct jobs at risk, mainly that are in the small and medium-sized enterprises. And international arrivals, as we see in the Africa region, has dropped by minus 75%, making it also one of the hardest hit regions, following Asia and the Pacific, which, as we see here, is at minus 84%, sorry. And we can also see the contrast between 2019 and 2020, where we were at a positive 2.1% increase in terms of international arrivals, as opposed now to 2020, where we're at 74% decrease in terms of international arrivals. Now, if we were to backtrack to 1 year just before the pandemic, and oops, yeah, we were experiencing a positive growth with over 70 million international tourist arrivals and over 39 billion US dollars in terms of international tourism receipts. And additionally, as we all know, tourism is a sector that creates employment and contributes immensely to the socio-economic development of countries. And in the context of Africa, we can see that at the outset of the pandemic, even if we said that the number of cases, I'm very sorry, I have some problems skipping. Okay, even if we experience very low cases being recorded in the continent, several countries already that are dependent on key source markets from Europe have started to experience the effects of the pandemic, especially with the introduction of border closures, as well as travel restrictions that had been imposed by countries. Also, jobs and daily livelihoods have been severely impacted, as I mentioned earlier, especially the small and medium-sized enterprises, which, as we know, they play an important role in the continent's market economies, but at the same time, they tend to operate mostly in the informal sector, which are more involved also in the consumer-oriented services. And also looking at a recent report by UNCTAD, it shows that the SMSMEs represent more than 90% in terms of businesses on the continent, and they employ about 60% of workers. And other adverse effects that has been a major rise we have seen in terms of poaching. But however, as we know, with all crises, there are opportunities. And we've seen businesses diversify and try to readjust in order to adapt to today's realities. So forward looking, what our experts are telling us, I'm not sure. Okay, sorry. Okay, I've got it now. What our experts have predicted are a couple of scenarios. Prospects for 2021 are mixed and are still largely subject to the evolution of the health crisis, and a rebound is expected on the second half of the year if the pandemic is gradually brought under control, as well as travel restrictions, as we see now, are being lifted. But later surge of infections and emergence of new strains could also slow the recovery. But the central scenario, scenario 2, it shows us that international tourism would modestly bounce back in 2021 to levels which are still less than half of those of 2019. And also considering that we have a reversal of the pandemic by the second half of the year, which includes the rollout of the vaccines and also a significant improvement in traveler confidence, as well as the lifting of travel restrictions. And from the outset, UNWTO has been taking a very active role through the Global Tourism Crisis Committee that is chaired by our Secretary General. And this is where we bring together other
Apologies, ma'am, you are on mute.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, as I was saying, some of the initiatives that has and recommendations that has been put forward by the Global Crisis Committee includes the global tourism guidelines to restart tourism. And also we have launched recommendations on tourism and rural development, which aims to support governments at various levels, as well as the private sector, in the way that they are developing the rural tourism. The Global Tourism Plastic Initiatives unites the tourism sector behind the common vision to address the root cause of plastic pollution. There's also the travel restriction report that keeps track of measures being taken in destinations worldwide that helps to support with the mitigation and recovery efforts of the tourism sector. And the latest edition, we've relooked at the methodology that has been updated to offer insights in the tourism flows of destination, as well as to explore the link between the health and hygiene infrastructure and any potential connection to travel restrictions. With the support of CNN, who is a key media partner of ours, in May last year, we launched the campaign #TravelTomorrow, was simply to inspire people to get ready to travel again. And in December last year, we again partnered with CNN to launch another campaign on the global restart of tourism. And again, this campaign has been to affirm the unifying voice behind the global restart of tourism, but also encouraging members to continue to put the required safety measures in order to be able to welcome tourists to the destination. Another effective tool that I would like to share with you is the UNWTO Global Tourism Dashboard, as well as the Recovery Tracker. These are services that is on offer free to our members, and it gives an insight really on the different measures that are being taken by countries on the ground, because these information are fed to us firsthand by the member states. And there is an interactive map also that allows searches by different categories, showing the various fiscal and monetary measures that have been set up by countries. The Recovery Tracker compiles all the relevant data in one place. It gives governments as well as private businesses the ability to track the recovery of tourism at global and regional level, alongside information on top of destinations for international tourism. This is a partnership that we've done with ICAO and other private sector stakeholders we work with in order to be able to bring you these data. Here, if we go a little bit in detail in these two slides that will follow, you can see that the tracker includes data on international tourist arrivals, on seat capacity, as well as occupancy rates, and the selection can be done by region and sub-region as well. Here we can see an additional option of the Tourism Recovery Tracker. So if you go on our website, you can easily navigate on this tool that offers various information, as I was saying, as well as specific. Here I chose an example that shows the Africa region, but we can also go to country specific. And in this case here, we can see the country South Africa, whereby it shows also the international tourist arrivals, which you've also suffered a loss. And primarily also we have the technical assistance package. This includes a comprehensive list of technical activities, both with a long duration and also with a wide scope, as well as short duration, depending on the focus. And this is tailor-made according to the situation of each country. The package itself is based on 3 key pillars: the economic recovery, marketing and promotion, as well as institutional capacity building. And in addition to the tailor-made technical recovery package, we continue to give support to our member states in various areas with the support of different donors that we've been working with. But more importantly, for the colleagues from the region who joined today, you know that our work is mostly centered around the UNWTO agenda for Africa. And last year, with the pandemic, we launched a mini survey in order to be able to understand from our members what are the key specific areas they want us to keep focus on in regards to help them also with the recovery of the sector. It was interesting to see the various areas where members have asked us to realign, especially when we talk about fostering resilience, safety and security, advocating brand Africa, and also promoting investment and promotion. And in response to the result of the survey, what has been done, key activities that we've been able to conduct throughout last year. We recently launched a book, a tour of the African gastronomy. And this 96-page book shows, it pays homage also to the unique culinary cuisine that we have on the African continent. So we thank all the members who participated in this, as well as we have over 30 chefs that we are now continuing to interview in order to bring forward the aspect of our culinary, of our gastronomy to the world. We've also started work in collaboration with the African Union Development Agency, AUDA NEPAD, and the West Africa Economic Monetary Union, UEMOA, working on a white paper on tourism insecurity, which we anticipate to be able to launch it this year. And the project, we hope, will help our members to address the issues and also share the initiatives and best practices that they have experienced in the context of safety and security in the tourism sector. Last year, we also brought to our members a series of virtual workshops on crisis management in the tourism sector. And additionally, with the aim of continuing to promote the destinations whilst people are not traveling, we launched a social media campaign, #MyAfrica, inviting people to share the positive stories that they are experiencing in the tourism sector in Africa. As I mentioned, to remain connected with our member states, we've conducted various activities throughout the year virtually, and we anticipate to continue to bring these services online through our Tourism Online Academy, where we have several courses on offer to our members, as well as we've been conducting virtual webinars, as well as workshops. And one important tool that more and more we see members making use of is access to our e-library, where we've got an array of different publications of different topics that could support members with research work or any material that they may be researching on. And when we look at the context, as we mentioned, of Africa in regards to addressing the issues in regards to the COVID-19 and also the recovery, we've seen an importance of the implementation of global and harmonized health and safety and hygiene protocols. We also have seen several countries have rolled out, and Deputy Minister also reference to that in his opening in regards to the vaccination or the test being done. Additionally, we have seen a shift now, as I mentioned earlier, the source markets, they are not traveling now, so members in the region have had to relook at the different source market that they could tap into. And the tendency, as you know, and you've experienced also in South Africa and in most of the countries, the tendency is looking towards domestic tourism and intra-regional travel. We've seen diversification. We've also seen skills, training, reskilling also being done in this sector. Several countries like South Africa, different initiatives has been launched in order to be able to assist the businesses. And just before we conclude, I'd like to maybe share with you the upcoming activities, especially the institutional meetings that is upcoming in our region. This year there will be quite a big focus on the Africa region as we celebrate first our regional commission in Cabo Verde in September. And again, as we mark the World Tourism Day in Côte d'Ivoire. And finally, in October, we will have the 24th session of the General Assembly in Morocco, Marrakesh. And if situation permit and allow, we will try to bring some events, key events, such as a conference on advocating brand Africa to the continent in Namibia, we are hoping, as well as the white paper that I referred to. We anticipate to bring tourism ministers as well as ministers working in the field of that oversees the issues of security together for a ministerial conference to discuss on this issue and topic in the tourism sector. I hope that these information that has been shared with you could be key initiatives that you could also make use. I'm sorry with my navigating with the presentation, and I would be ready to answer any questions that you may have. So I thank you also on behalf of my team who's been working alongside me in order to be able to deliver on our program of work. So I thank you and wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank